we got to talk about Week 12 coming up, doing our preview thing. But before we get into that, there's talks about Mel Tucker getting a 10-year, $95 million contract.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
I know it's 95 million. I just don't know for sure that it's 10 years.
For 10 years. Now I heard about extension.
I know it's
95 million.
I know the number is 95 million. I just don't know if it's 10 years for sure. I can't remember, but I think it's 10 years. Highest paid Big Ten coach, and obviously one of the highest paid Black coaches. But it hasn't been signed yet. There's just talks about it.
Hey, go black man, for sure. Cause I haven't even seen him play Michigan State. So basically, this is, hey man, this you know what this goes to show you? This goes to show you how much Michigan State truly loves beating Michigan. Because all you had to do to get 10 years, 95 out of Michigan State was beat Michigan 2 times. Didn't matter that they were 2-4 one time. Don't matter that you needed a little of assistance from the officiating the second time. 10 years. Yeah, cool. All right, cool. Bet.
And again, it hasn't been signed yet, so it could be north of 100. We don't know yet.
Like, that's what they felt like they needed to go to fend off LSU and USC. Like, LSU, I kind of get. SEC school, that's his footprint. That's where, he comes from, SEC country. Plus, they have the talent to compete.
Mm-hmm.
USC, that I don't know if they really needed to spend like that to outbid USC if they were even a problem. It was probably LSU. But damn, that's a lot of money, man. I mean, look,
95.
Even in the 2 years that he's been there, they weren't good last year, but they beat Michigan, and then they're much better this year. A lot of transfers, right? We haven't seen Mel Tucker build a program yet at Michigan
this is not
State.
His team yet. This is not his team yet, clearly.
Man, I don't know. I'm happy because he's getting paid, but I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
And a lot of incentive for him to actually stay, though. So
that's $9 million.
They didn't have to. They didn't have to actually, outbid too much. But I mean, that's a lot of incentive to stay.
$9 million a year is crazy. The buyout on that has to be nuts. Like, we have to give you a wing of our library if we buy you out of a 10-year, 95 million. He got an NBA contract, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
But I guess the problem becomes if he, starts having losing seasons 3 years down the road.
How the hell do you get out of that monster of a contract? They gonna stick with him. We'll be looking at Mel Tucker if it gets signed. We'll be looking at Mel Tucker as a staple of that program, win or loss, for a long time. You got to at least, I would say, in a 10-year contract, you at least got to give it 6, 7.
Oh yeah,
at least before you start talking about buying somebody out of that kind of contract. So, man, hey, I guess congratulations if he ends up taking it, and that's a lot. That is a whole lot.
I know it. Anyway, Week 12. Let's start off with Nebraska versus Wisconsin. Nebraska still probably somewhere near the bottom of the Big Ten West. Wisconsin, then they're at the top, maybe top two.
Mm-hmm.
I fully expect Graham
in the
Mertz
West,
yeah. So I fully expect Graham Mertz and team to just come in and kind of do whatever they please against Nebraska.
Go Wisconsin, go! Every triumph they have until now, until the end of the season, just keeps making Michigan look better, man. So I got Wisconsin regardless. I don't think we've seen the last whisper from Nebraska this year in terms of competing versus teams that they're supposed to be. I feel like so. It's no longer will they? It's just that I don't think that they will. So yeah, Wisconsin handily.
Okay. Illinois versus Iowa. kind of a similar thing there. I think a team that's closer to the bottom of the Big Ten West versus a team that's hopefully looking to get into the Big Ten championship. I don't see Illinois being that big of a detour. Honestly, I think Iowa got it handily by at least a couple scores.
The question in this game is, what Illinois team shows up? Is this the Illinois team that went to 9 overtimes with Penn State?
Or is it this one?
Is this the UTSA Illinois team, right? Like, I said this a couple weeks ago. Brett Bielema is either one of the best coaches in football or one of the worst, because he has a straight up Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team on his hands. Who shows up this weekend? Well, I don't think they won last weekend. They played.
Illinois had a bye week last week.
They had a bye week. Okay. So I'm going to say, coming off of a bye week, that Illinois ends up being the competitive team that we've seen at certain spots this year, right? And gives Iowa a run for their money. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to win this game, and Iowa, unfortunately, puts a nail in the coffin of their Big Ten championship hopes. I think Iowa has a loss to Penn State and
Purdue.
Purdue. Okay, so no, yeah, that would be done for them. That would be it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Illinois.
Really? You're gonna go with Bielema for the upset?
I'm gonna go with Illinois for the upset.
Okay, we'll see. We'll definitely see on that one. I think
two
high
offensively limited teams, right? So a lot of punting in this game. A lot of field position is going to be the name of this game. Time of possession. I think Bielema has a better, well, not a better field, but that's his type of game. If he's going to win a game, it's going to be something like that. So I'm going to lean Illinois on this one.
Could it be high hopes because you want to see Wisconsin come out on top in the Big Ten West?
It could be a little bit of bias, but also there's some reason to it as well. There's definitely some logic behind it. Iowa has shown that if they can't get turnovers, that's the name of them this year. No turnovers, no points, essentially. Yeah. So any game like that, Illinois certainly has a chance to win.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. Minnesota versus Indiana. I mean, Indiana has looked like a shell of their former selves from last year. Mm-hmm. Minnesota kind of on an upturn. I don't think they have the gas to make it all the way to the Big Ten championship. I know they're still in probably the top 3 teams. They'll win this one, but I don't think they move on to the championship.
If my Illinois predictions holds true, then that will help them. They need to obviously win their last 2 games, and then they need a little bit of help at the top. They need Iowa and both Wisconsin to slip up a bit. So I think they get a win here. They'll take care of their portion of it. It'll just be the rest of the West that'll have to provide them a little bit of help for them to get to Indy, which I don't see happening. I see Wisconsin going there because Wisconsin's going to win the West.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know you became such a Wisconsin fan all of a sudden.
Love Wisconsin, man. I'm a Badger through and through, except for week 1 through 14 of the college football season.
Let me find out you about to play jump around as soon as we get off the Zoom call.
Yeah, let's go Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah, that's the same thing I got. Purdue versus Northwestern.
Okay.
I think Purdue got this one. Northwestern, I think we're becoming a little bit of a skip track a little bit, but always saying that Northwestern hasn't done anything this entire year. So more of the same.
Yeah, we're in play the young guys, see what we got mode for Pat Fitzgerald and the Cats here. Purdue's still playing for, not any postseason success, I wouldn't think. I think they're probably in the same spot as Minnesota. They got to win out, and then chaos has to ensue around them for them to even have a prayer at this point. But I think Purdue's got a little bit more of let's finish the season with some momentum, because we realized that we could be a team on the ascension, much like we thought Indiana would be, much like we thought Minnesota would be, right? We expected those teams to take an additional step beyond overachieving in the years past that they had done. That could be Purdue going into 2022. But to do that, you need to have strong wins at the end of the season to carry you over into the spring, and then spring for carries over into the summer into the fall, and so on and so on. So I think Purdue has at least that to get over a team like Northwestern, especially coming off of a loss like they did against Ohio State. That can't feel good. Even being favored to lose that game, no one wants to go out there and lose by 4 scores. So I'm gonna take Purdue in a big one. Give me Purdue plus 3 touchdowns. I don't know what the line is. That's probably a line with the line. I can see it being at least about 19 points. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of one team that basically is playing for next year, Rutgers is playing Penn State, and Rutgers is another team that I definitely think is playing for next year and trying to get some good wins.
What's their record? I think they're bowl eligible at least.
Yeah, they're definitely over 500. I don't know where they're at right now for sure.
So
6-4 maybe.
Instead of playing immediately after the conference championship games, maybe you'll get a Christmas game.
Which is not what we expected from Rutgers coming into
this. No. I mean, I think Rutgers is in a spot similar to Purdue, right, where they need to start putting blocks together to build on in the off season, right? So obviously we're not going to the conference championship game. Obviously playoff and things like that are not in our purview this year. But what are the things that we can carry in the off season to say, okay, we figured that we were good at this in some of these games, through the course of the year. This is what we can build on in the off season so that we can be a better team moving forward. So similarly to what I said about Purdue, Rutgers is in a spot where they can try and get some momentum here going into next season. Now, their problem, as opposed to Purdue, is that they have Penn State. Penn State still has the potential of getting to at least 8 wins, even with all the heartbreaking losses that they've experienced this season. This could still be an 8-win team, which is not terrible, for the amount of losing that they've done this season. So, I don't see Rutgers pulling this one out, but I think it'll be a closer game than expected. I got Penn State by a score.
I think I'm going to take Rutgers with this one just because I still think James Franklin doesn't know where he is. I'm almost certain he doesn't know where he is. But no, seriously though, I think Rutgers wants this win probably a little bit more than Penn State does. Penn State probably doesn't have as much confidence going into this one as they did earlier in the season. So for that reason, that's why I'm taking Rutgers.
Really tough defense for Penn State. That was the difference for me. I don't think Rutgers is going to be able to move the ball against them. So, can't score, can't win.
Fair enough. Michigan versus Mike Locksley.
Ooh, boy. If I wanted a blowout all season, I would love for it to be against Mike Locksley and in Maryland. Like, if there was any coach, well, you know what? It's a tie. It's a tie between Mike Locksley and Scott Frost. Dead heat tie between Scott Frost and Mike Locksley. I could easily see this being a game where Michigan fiddles around with Maryland, right? And it ends up being a game through maybe a quarter and a half, just because so much is riding on that game at the end of the season. But there's too much that Michigan does well that Maryland can't take away, right? Maryland can't stop us from running the ball. Maryland can't stop us from throwing the ball. Offensively, they can't run the ball. We had the DBs, I think, to play with what little receivers they have left over at this point. It's just not a whole lot for them to pull away from us or to stop us with. There's not a lot to really be concerned about other than Talia Tagovailoa, right? He is a gunslinger, and I think he's over 3,000 passing yards for the season. So he's a guy who can throw it downfield. So if we have mental lapses in this game, If we don't read our keys, if we got our eyes in the backfield, if we make mistakes, if we turn the ball over, it could end up hurting us. I don't see them playing that way. This team seems different. They seem like they are more focused, not so prone to the letdown or looking ahead. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a good tune-up. Another reason why I like this matchup is because while I don't feel like we're in danger of losing, I feel like the things that they present offensively is going to be a lot of what we see next week, which is a good preparation, right? It's a really good preparation. The talent level obviously isn't going to be the same, but I think a lot of the concepts are going to apply. So get in there, get out early, maybe get the backups in the whole second half, and that sounds like a recipe for success for me. This ain't the year that I need 60 points on Maryland. Let's get out of there healthy. Let's play a complete game and let's get ready for the last one at home.
And don't let it be a trap game, looking too far ahead towards Ohio State.
Doubt it. Can't be a real trap if the trap is made out of paper mache. You know what I'm saying? We rip right through that.
No, for sure.
We rip right through that.
Maryland is paper mache for half the Big Ten. So, yeah, I get it. Last game, the big game this week, Ohio State versus Michigan State.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, well, you go, sir. Tell me your thoughts.
So, obviously, the theme to this season has been high-powered offense, defense looking super duper shaky. And I think in this case, we got to watch out for guys like Kenneth Walker, Peyton Thorne to have a big game on the offensive side for them. But I think in this case, unfortunately, I hate this game plan. It's looking like, look, we got to get out, score, and keep ahead of Michigan State for the most part, because otherwise our defense might not have an answer for their offense.
Yeah. I don't know where I want to go with this game, because on one hand, I'm looking at your stable of wide receivers, and I'm looking at Michigan State's pass defense, and I'm like, that's a mismatch. What are they going to do, right? But then I'm looking at the Heisman frontrunner and Kenneth Walker, and how in these last couple of weeks where Michigan State maybe hasn't, put a whole lot of separation in between them and other teams using their passing game, Kenneth Walker has been a beast. And Ohio State versus another power running team this season didn't have the best of luck, right? Or against two, if you count Minnesota. Which one leaves you more susceptible? I don't know, because Michigan State could get that ball and keep it from Ohio State, right? And go on 14, 17 play drives and just own time of possession and take the air out of the ball for Stroud in the offense. Stroud in the offense can get out to an early lead throwing the ball, which will make it impossible for Michigan State to run the ball with Kenneth Walker the way that they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's going to be able to take care or take advantage of the mismatch more. Now, here's what I'll say, maybe the X factor, right? In that, Ohio State's pass defense is fucking horrid. It's bad. It's bad. So if he is able to supplement a heavy running dose of Kenneth Walker with deep play action passes, that's going to put Ohio State in some jeopardy. Because now, instead of you throwing when you want to, you're throwing because you have to catch up. You have to catch up for lost time. You have to catch up for lost possessions. It'll be Ryan Day's ability to maximize possessions versus Mel Tucker's ability to minimize his opponent's possessions. This is a really compelling game, not so much because of these teams' strengths, but because of their weaknesses.
I agree.
Dream scenario, full disclosure, Michigan State beats Ohio State and then loses to Penn State. So that the only thing Michigan has to do is beat Ohio State to not only go to Indy, but go to the playoff. That's my dream scenario. I just don't know.
It's a pretty big dream.
I don't know if it's that big of a dream. It's completely doable, I think, considering how Michigan State beat Michigan and then lost to Purdue the very following week. I think it's pretty plausible. I just don't know if I trust Michigan State. I don't know that I trust them like that. So I'm going to say that Michigan's chances on getting both of the things that they want, playoff berth and a Big Ten championship, ride on beating Ohio State next week because Ohio State wins in a close one versus Michigan State.
Okay. We'll see. We will see. I do think this is going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. But I got the boys. I got the boys winning by probably,
sure,
I'll probably say 10.
But it's going to be a 2-score game.
I'll give them 10.
Y'all going to lose now. That's too much confidence. Y'all going
to
to
lose
lose now.
Confidence?
Too much.
How's that too much confidence?
I don't see this being a 2-score game.
We've been blowing out way lesser teams.
Yeah.
But
teams that didn't have a Kenneth Walker in the background.
We beat Purdue by how much? And then, they did what they did against Michigan State.
You know what?
It's a possibility.
I blame some of this confidence on me because if I hadn't have given so much to Purdue, then maybe you wouldn't feel so good. I put a lot of. I don't
think that's crazy. I don't think that 10 is that much confidence. I could see it being one score, but I think 10 is not a bad prediction.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker's going to hear this and go for 250.
Kenneth Walker is not going to hear shit. He ain't going to hear a damn thing. Any other college football, Big Ten takes?
Oh, man. Go blue. Let's finish out.
Let's finish out. Go Bucks.
Hey! Where y'all going? Where y'all going?
Give us your score predictions. Let us know who you got winning the big one, Ohio State, Michigan State this week. Give us score predictions in the comments.
Make sure you check out all of our other college football videos in the playlist down below. Make sure you subscribe.